All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Polanco. I am so excited to be spending this short time with you to answer questions and to just kind of talk about stuff. My presentation, as a reminder, was the watercolor for holiday card making, which I have to say I've never taken on that challenge before of watercoloring. So that was a lot of fun to do. So I have a first question up here. Could I use watercolors or liquid ink for the ombre technique? So you can do both. And I think that's what's great about having a mat that works well with this type of method. You can put the liquid ink off to the side, add a little bit of water, and then use that for your ombre as well. So yeah, I love that you asked that because using what you have is always our mantra. And so if you already have liquid ink, go for it. Re-inkers, I'm assuming that's what you mean, sort of like the re-inker type. There's also liquid watercolors that come in bottles as well, but any of that will work. Yeah, absolutely. Such a good question. The next question is, are the ink pads I use dye-based? Yes, the ones I used for this particular video are dye-based. That, again, sort of going along with the first question, if you have the mat that you're using that's sort of like either silicone, glass, something with a non-porous surface, you can pretty much add any ink, which is great. I haven't tried it with pigment ink though, so that's a good experiment coming up. But yeah, I use dye inks. I find that they work really, really well for that. I also like, while we're waiting for some more questions, I also like, obviously, Distress Oxide inks. I have full sets of those, and I have a full set of the Catherine Pooler dye inks. And then I have almost a full set of the VersaFine pigment. So, of the three types of ink, those are the three brands that I use. I don't really have any other inks besides those. All right, we have a question. Could a person use painter tape if they do not have craft tape to hold down the watercolor paper? Oh yeah, absolutely you can. That the craft tape I use that I preferred for that particular technique is because I could see through it and I could see how much on each side I was um, bringing the tape inward. And that was easy. But painter's tape, if you do that, what I would recommend is that you maybe mark your paper where you want the painter's tape to stop. This way you have even sides on all four. And that's probably the only thing you would have to do. Or if you just go for it with the painter's tape, when you're done, if anything's crooked, you can just cut off the sides that you need to make it even. So 100% yes, use painter's tape. Just make sure that it's, if it's the blue tape, I find that sometimes that rips the paper. So be very careful when you're pulling it off. But frog tape, painter's tape, low tack is great. That might even be see-through. So that's a really good question too. All right, Jane says, is there a particular heat tool you recommend for drying watercolor panel? Oh yeah, so I do have two different heat tools. I don't think it's necessary that you have to. One heat tool I have by Ranger looks like a hair dryer. It's very low heat, meaning it's not as hot and it disperses the heat almost like more widely, like a hair dryer would. So I have that, but then I also have my embossing heat tool from Wagner, which is much more concentrated high heat. For drawing watercolor panels, I definitely recommend something like the Ranger hair dryer, although you can totally do it with the heat tool. Just maybe use the lower setting. So that's the one I use. I use the Ranger, looks like a hair dryer in my video, I believe. But you can use your older heat embossing tool for sure. Just don't keep it on one spot for too long. Yeah, so great question about using washi tape. For sure, I think washi tape can be used. I think if, when you enter into the world of any kind of watercoloring, I think letting go of precise and perfection in the way of control is the best thing to do. Because even with the best tape out there, you still may get a tiny imperfection, especially if you're using watercolor paper, which you should be, right? Because of the texture. So I think washi tape would absolutely get the job done for sure. Just make sure it's thick enough that it covers the sides that you want. Hi, from Arlene. Okay, what is your favorite coloring medium to use to color images or make backgrounds. Okay, so I think that's two questions. Let me answer them differently. So my favorite coloring medium would have to be, this was hard. Okay, just answer the question, Mary. The Real Brush pens from Arteza. Zig makes them too. A bunch of companies make them, but I use the ones from Arteza because I find them to be the easiest and quickest way to color. And if you decide to do something with those type of markers, you want to use Bristol Smooth cardstock and VersaFine Nocturne ink. That combo, stamp your images, color them up. I just love it. I have lots of videos on my channel where I use those. Yeah, so that would be my favorite. And then my favorite way to make colored backgrounds would be oxide inks. I mean, it just doesn't get old. I mean, slap down ink, smush, you always get something different. It's so fun, but you can do them with dye inks as well. That one was hard to answer. You don't own a mat yet. Would wax paper work? Yes, wax paper would work. I seriously think I've almost tried every surface to make a mat. So, okay, let me just name off a few. If you don't have a crafty mat yet, wax paper, the grill sheets, they make those as well. They've worked phenomenally. I have those in a video. You can use the release paper off of a label sheet. So let's say you peeled off the label sheet, you could do that. If you have any kind of clear acetate, that could be a mat. Glass, any glass. You could probably pull out a piece of Tupperware and turn the lid over and use that. I mean, anything really non-porous. I don't know about the Tupperware one. But yeah, those will all work. Laminate a sheet, use some contact paper, showed that one in a video yesterday. So really so many options out there. But if you live in the United States, Dollar Tree has cutting boards that are thin plastic, 2 to a pack. Get that because it's a big surface. And then you can cut them down too. Okay, Tiffany says, is there a technique or product you've tried just hated? This is a good question. And I want to say, I can't think of one that comes off. It'll probably come to me, but I can tell you one that I won't try. I don't really want to. And that is the foiling plates. I don't know why. I'm just, what it probably is, because I'm a little overwhelmed by learning an entirely new system. And every time I feel that way and I jump in, it's not as hard as it seems. But that's the one I really have no desire to try. But I'm going to think about this. This might come to me in a little bit. One that I just really hated. I don't know. That's a good question. All right. How do you stick things onto glitter card? The stuff that doesn't shed. I've tried scratching glitter off, but it doesn't come off. Tried lots of glues, but everything I've tried peels off. Oh, that's a really good question. Okay. So glitter cardstock that's a hard one. So I'm presuming, if I'm picturing this right, let's say you have a piece of glitter cardstock down on a panel and you want to put on your base. So base, glitter cardstock, card panel over it, right? That's how we want to stick to it. I would say one of the strongest adhesives I've found for that is the stuff that similar to what scrapbook.com makes in their double-sided adhesive. That stuff is so strong. And so I feel like most will stick right to it. I would try that. Also, there's some really super glue, although I don't really recommend playing with super glue in our craft room, but that comes to mind too. Hopefully that helps. That's a really strong one. Do I use any other kind of paper other than watercolor? So yes, I use, for this technique particularly, I would recommend watercolor paper all the way, because you're going over it as many times as you want and it's not going to start pilling or giving you a hard time. However, I do other watercolor techniques with other paper, yes. So I have stamped with watercolors. So let's say on a mat, I put some mix of colors, I stamp a leaf in it, and then I bring it to my paper. You can use any cardstock for that because you're not going over it repeatedly. I also use Bristol Smooth cardstock from Strathmore, I believe it is. And that's, like I said before, amazing for Real Brush watercolor pens. You can get 2 passes of your coloring your image without it pilling. So that is highly recommended too. But for this technique, stick with watercolor paper. Okay, Norma feels like she needs a guillotine. Would you recommend mini or a full size? I think if you're going to get a guillotine, I would go full size. That's my recommendation, because then you would be able to cut down larger pieces of cardstock with no problem. I find I have the 8.5 one and I have the large one, and I love the 8.5 right by my desk. I don't advocate for having two, three. I have three guillotines. I have the mini too. All right, we're not here to talk about Mary's issues. But I would recommend that you have the larger one, because I find that that is great for mass cutting of my cardstock when I'm prepping. And yeah, I mean, it just makes it easier. If you're going to get one, go for that one. That's my recommendation. What's my favorite color combo? Ooh, I love a blush pink and a gray with a little bit of sort of my wall cover color. If you could see that, it's almost like a sage type of green. I'm a very pastel-y, not past, it's like a mix between pastel and earth tones. That's sort of my vibe. It's my favorite. Love it. Great color combo. You guys got me thinking on my feet here. These are some good questions. Okay, great. Yeah, get the guillotine. Okay, good. I'm not alone on that one. How do I categorize, store my stamps and dies? So for this, I do a lot of work with scrapbook.com exclusive products. So I have its own storage area, and I don't really, it's all kind of mixed. I mean, paper's together and dies are together and stamps are together, right? But my miscellaneous stuff, I do a few different ways. Right on the side of my craft desk, I have two drawers, two sliding things that come out like this, and they're magnetic. Thank you to my husband. And I just stick the most used dies there because they're right at my fingertips. I also have just one basket. I actually showed this on my video recently. I have one basket of extra stamps, and I store them in plastic pockets. New. I love these new plastic pockets. I label them and I keep them categorized by theme. So I have all of the holidays together. I have the thank yous, or the, sentimental ones. I have all that are heavy in sentiments. Those are all categorized by theme, not by company. I don't do that other than scrapbook.com. I hope that was helpful. You just have to find out what works for you. Where can we find you on social media? Yes, you can find me. Mary Polanco Designs is YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can find me in all three of those places. I also have a Pinterest, but I kind of neglect my Pinterest, if I'm honest. I need to do better with that. But those three are where I'm most active. If I had to pick one, I would say YouTube. I probably am most active, as well as Facebook and Instagram. I've repeated myself. Those three. That's where you can find me. Oh, Stickles. Okay, great question. Would that work? Would Stickles work for glitter dots? Yes and no. All right, so here's my answer. I love Stickles. What I use Stickles the most for, you didn't ask this, but I feel like I want to share it. I use Stickles during the holiday season the most, because I use it for on the tops of my roofs. If I'm doing like images with roofs, this way it looks like snow, making icicles. I love Stickles. But if you tried to make a glue dot from Stickles, like a glitter dot from Stickles, it's not going to be round. It's going to be kind of wonky. However, you can put a glob of Stickles on the side on a craft mat. Take one of those, stylus tools with the little ball on the end, dip it in the Stickles, and then make little dots all over your project like that. That you can do, and they come out perfect. So love that tip. That's a great one I've been doing. No, I do not have a bird, but the outside. Yeah, they're lively today. They're outside right now. My windows are open. It's beautiful here in Maryland. It's like 70 degrees. Sun is shining. Birds are chirping. Is it too loud? Should I shut my windows? Let me know. I think it's, we only have a few minutes anyway, but. Okay, Tiffany, back with the hard questions. Is there a technique or product that you love but just don't do as often as you would like? Yeah, coloring. I can answer that one. I really love to color. I think it's fun. I think it's so neat to see these images go from bland to lively. But it is time consuming. And I just went back to school this August. So I find that my time is even less. available for certain things. And so, but yeah, coloring, I love to do it. And I use Ohuhu coloring markers for alcohol, and they're amazing once you figure out the crazy algorithm that they are. I have a sheet that I have on Etsy that kind of like swatches them out and could help you blend. It will help you blend because otherwise the caps don't match. Anyway, side note, coloring is the thing I don't do enough of. Where do I look for inspiration? I looked at Pinterest a lot for inspiration. I sometimes if I'm in like a crafty rut and I'm like, how do I want to make? Actually, the first thing I do when I'm in a rut, a crafty rut, is I just sit at my desk and I pull out a stamp set and I stare at it for a while. And then I'll do some things that have to be done anyway in the craft room, like pre-cutting card bases or die cutting sentiments, or just something that kind of gets me in the flow of creating. And then something will come to me. But if I'm looking, I love YouTube. I don't watch as many card videos as I used to. But I love quick stuff too, like Instagram Reels. Yeah, that's where I go to just see what other people are doing and see what's out there. Super fun. What are stickles? So stickles are actually spelled Stickles, in case you're looking for them. And they are it's basically glitter glue in small bottles. Let me see. I don't think I have any readily available to show you. I do not. They're right behind me. I know you can't see this, but they are right here in the first row. So they're small bottles of glitter glue. They come in different colors, mostly gold, clear, and silver. Yeah, and you could just add them to your projects for a little embellishment. What am I studying, Millie? Oh, thank you for asking. I am going back to school to get my doctorate in the psychology of leadership with a concentration in neuroscience. So for those of you that don't know, I spent 23 years in the Air Force, and I fell in love with leadership, resilience, well-being, all of those concepts. And so yeah, I own my own business called Live and Lead Well, where I do leadership training and things like that. And so I really just wanted to continue my education and I don't know, figure out how to be part of the solution out there. So thank you for asking that. Why is Arteza my favorite? Cost. I think if I had to say, like, I know that I'm assuming you're talking about the real brush pens. I know the Zig ones. I know Ohuhu, I think, makes some. So there's different brands. I've tried cheap brands on Amazon. They seem to work just fine. But the Arteza gives me a full set of like 96, and it's affordable in my opinion. And I've only bought them once years ago, and they still are fine. So that's why. The brushes are longer on those than they are on the Zig, and some people don't like that. So keep that in mind. But I find that the Zigs are just so much more expensive for a full set. So I'm a cheap chicken. Oh, Tiffany, I've been crafting. Well, that's a great question. When I was a kid, I used to go to the store and buy plaster craft ornaments. Like, I guess that would be like, it was plaster craft, but it's similar to like ceramics. And I would buy a bunch of paint and I would sit there and I'd paint everybody's ornaments. So that was like when I was 12, 13. I've been card making since 2007. I've had my YouTube channel since 2016. So just to hit all the answers to that question. But yeah, card making since then. Okay. Are there some generic brands of markers and inks that you would recommend to someone just starting out and can't afford the higher priced name brands? Would Amazon stuff work? Yeah. So Wendy, this is a great question. And I think it's hard to answer holistically because I think some things right out the gate are worth the money. So if you are starting off in crafting, here's my greatest recommendation is ink pads. Get the good brands, but only buy a few. That would be my first recommendation. So good brands, I don't want to list them all, but quality brands from craft companies, I recommend. So, and I mentioned my 3 before. Stuff that you want full sets of that might work and are cheaper than others. Yes. Ohuhu markers, I cannot recommend enough. I think they're fantastic. With not to plug my chart or anything, but with my chart, that really does help. And there's other people that make them too. But So yes, I would say there are definitely options. Amazon sells a lot of artist products for really inexpensively to try out. And I think anytime you're trying something out, start very slow, find out if it's what you're going to be continuously using, then you can go full set on it if you want. Hopefully that was helpful to answer that question, but I always say start slow. When ink blends, Stacy says, when ink blend things happen. I got blotchy marks, and even with new ink pads, I don't get a lot on my brushes. What hints on how to blend smoothly? Okay, so I would have to know what kind of brush you're using. If you're using the makeup type brushes, then one thing is make sure they're clean, because if ink is building up on them, then you're going to get blotchiness. So let me show you. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but this right here is a finger dauber one, and it's a brush. So it's not a foam. So those are actual bristles, right? That's the kind that works the best with ink blending. Start off your paper and work your way into it. If you are part of the Ultimate Bundle, I actually, there's a class I offered for free for the next 60 or so days where I do an entire class on getting the best ink blending possible. I talk about the trifecta, the 3 products that work the best. So if you bought the Ultimate Bundle, you can, that was included in the bundle. If you didn't, the class is available on my website for purchase, and you'll get, it's not just that class, it's 3 different classes. Anyway, that is, I'll go over all those tips, but that's the main one. Start off the paper, work your way in, make sure your brushes are clean, and make sure your ink pads are inked up well. And also Bristol Smooth cardstock is the cardstock that works the best for ink blending. So, okay, oh boy, with business and school, how do I find time to craft? Well, I make time for the things that matter to me. I used to not. I didn't make it a priority for upwards of 10 years, and it burned me out. And so now I make my non negotiables. I decide what they are, and then I stick to them. And one of them is my morning routine. My morning routine consists of time for myself. So I read, I sit in silence, I journal sometimes, and I craft if I want to that day. So I make time for it because I know what it does for me, and then I know how I show up for everyone else because of it. So, yeah, that's how I do it. It's not always easy, that's for sure. I always say invest in yourself first before you invest in anything else. And the world needs you to show up as the best you possibly can be, and that's the number one way to do it. Invest in yourself. Oh, okay, Anne. Thank you. Thank you for our service. And our country needs lots of leadership or help in areas of leadership. Yes, I think we all can use everything is leadership. Everything we do is leadership. I tried to convince my 14-year-old of that, and she's still skeptical. But I'm wearing her thin. Okay, so my summit freebie. Oh yeah, my summit freebie. Yes, so my summit freebie is a document that's going to help you get organized. I believe that's the one. Oh boy, it's all running together. My ultimate bundle freebie. Is that the one that you're asking about? That's the one let's assume so. So just real quick, if it is, that is going to be a 3-class series where I show you how to make shaker cards that are full front acetate, ink blending perfection. So mastering, ink blending. And then the other class in there is, coloring with alcohol inks, not alcohol markers, alcohol inks, and coloring up images in that way. So yeah, so that'll be included with the ultimate bundle. I think that's what you were asking. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Oh yes, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, 6 pages of images. That's the freebie for everybody. That's right. Even if you didn't buy the ultimate bundle. Okay. So this is thank you for asking that, because I get a lot of questions on, okay, I have these 6 pages of sentiments and images. What do I do with them? So they're a download. So that means that you have it on your computer and you can print them out at your leisure. What I always like to recommend is print them out on the cardstock that you love to color on. So obviously not just copy paper, but like I print mine out on accent opaque because I color on accent opaque. When you do that, you can sit and put it on a clipboard and have them on the go and color at your leisure. And then you can fussy cut them out or use your brother's Scan and Cut to cut the images out and use them for projects. And so there's, like I said, there's sentiments and there are images, tons of them. And they cover a lot of different holidays. And I tried to be really inclusive. And so hopefully you love that. I think it's a lot of fun to have and to use. And yeah. So thanks. Sorry about that. Got confused. Appreciate it. All right. So yes, tag me in the Facebook group with with your creations, any questions, and I will get to them. This was so much fun. Thank you so much. Such good questions. You had me in the hot seat. I appreciate you and enjoy the rest of the summit. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.